Can you hear me, Brian?
Hello, Sebastian. How are you?
Hi, nice to see you. Quick
Great,
question.
you too.
I can't start my video because they say the host has stopped it. Do you know why that's the case?
Yes, I do indeed. So I'm currently host. I'm going to hand those host controls over to you shortly. I just need to snag some info for our YouTube live stream. And then you will have full control and you'll be able to turn on your video. I also just promoted Harrison from the BCI Guys to panelist so that he will be able to participate in the conversation. Bear with me 2 seconds, and then I will hand over controls.
Very nice.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Fantastic. How's it going, guys?
Everything's
Great.
fine.
How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. Classes just started last week, so there's a lot going on, but I'm really happy that the schedule worked out so that I could be here.
Yes, yeah. Thanks so much for your time. I'm sure there are many irons in the fire that you're working with, so we do appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it. I love this sort of thing.
Already can hear us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so to everybody who's joining now, I think we will just need maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then we will start till the first people arrive. So maybe grab some, I don't know, whatever your time zone is, coffee or another drink, and then we will start soon.
I just got some tea.
Nice. Some fresh water.
Yes, likewise. Okay, so Sebastian, I'm going to hand host controls over to you. That will remove host controls for me, which means that you will have full control over the suite of functions with Zoom. If you need anything at all, feel free to message me on Slack or through the Zoom chat.
Yeah, nice. And it's already recording, right? As I see it.
Yes, correct.
Nice. Okay, you got it. I got the host. And now I should also be able to switch on my video. Hello guys, girls. So just need to blur my background. All right. Harrison, are you also able to start your video?
I am not. It's giving me the same error where it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, so because I will just make call. Okay, I just said that you're now the co-host. Are you now able to do it? Yeah, awesome. Great.
Perfect. There we go.
All right. So we already have some participants. I think we'll just wait maybe 1 minute.
Sure.
2 minutes, and then we start. What time is it again? You're in, where are you currently again?
I am in upstate New York in the US, so it's 1 p.m. here. So right now.
Middle of the day. And how's the weather in New York?
Upstate New York's never great, but it's been quite hot.
Okay.
For this week, mid 90s for Fahrenheit. I don't know exactly what that is Celsius. I think it's like mid 30s.
Yeah, US versus European measurement is always fucked up.
Yeah, I know that probably means nothing. It's hot. It's been hot, which is nice. So because it gets very, very cold here in the winters, so it's good.
Awesome.
But yeah, so what has your chapter been working on? Is it just starting for?
Yeah, maybe that's the first introduction what I can give you or to the attendees. So
okay, we can wait then if you're waiting.
Yeah, no, I mean you can. Okay, so that's the start, right? So thanks for the starting question. So yeah, again, hi to everybody who already is joining. I think there are maybe also joining some more afterwards, but I mean, the link is open, so I think we can definitely start. So my name is Sebastian, and I'm currently leading the NeuroTechMUC chapter. As maybe somebody already knew NeuroTechX, the whole organization before, but if not, then after the event, definitely check out the website. There are also many chapters, everybody else, wherever you come from. There are good online resources on the website and so on. And how NeuroTechX is organized is that there are several chapters around the globe. And now in Germany, I think we have 2 or maybe 3, I'm not sure, but we have one in Berlin. And now we already had the Munich chapter for NeuroTechX already, I think, some years ago, but it somehow died some years ago because it was not active. But it was very like Munich is such a great city due to the great universities, and there's actually so many NeuroTech interesting people I met besides NeuroTechMUC. So that was the reason why I said, okay, we need to bring NeuroTech back to life. So that's the reason. And again, thanks to everybody who joined. And as this first event, the first welcome meeting, we have again very, very special guest. I had to he's shaking his head like I'm not that important. I met Harrison, I think 6-9 months ago. I'm not sure, but quite some months ago, and it was really interesting because we somehow got in contact and we had like our first call, and I think we just said, yeah, maybe let's talk for 20 minutes, but we ended up talking like straight 2 hours about NeuroTechX and BCIs. So that's
how it goes.
definitely.
Yeah. I don't shut up about neurotech. You didn't either, so it's just a bad combination / good combination.
Yeah, it was like, okay, now we need to end. But have you heard about this? The whole talk? That's how we met, and since then, there actually happened a lot at the BCI Guys side. But I think Harrison will definitely talk a lot more about that later. So you will definitely get more insights about him or what the BCI guys actually are and what they're doing. So yeah, I think with that being said, I give the give you the opportunity to, maybe for everybody who has never ever heard about you or the BCI guys, to maybe quickly give an introduction, talk about the history, and also information for all the participants. After Harrison's talk, there's the opportunity to ask him questions, whatever you want to know. For that, you have the Q&A session. So if you look at Zoom at the bottom right, there's like an button or icon, which is the Q&A, and there you have the opportunity to also, during the event, like we will you can ask whatever you want, but we will just go to the questions after the talk, and then I hope there are already some in there. So that's everything from my side. I will maybe add something at the end of the event, but now really up to you, Harrison. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. As I was saying before, I always love any opportunity to talk about neurotechnology, and I will try to keep myself as concise as possible because, yes, as you know and just alluded to, I could talk about this stuff forever. So I'm from the BCI Guys. BCI, of course, stands for Brain-Computer Interface. I'm sure everybody here knows that, but we create educational, entertaining content around neurotechnology and brain-computer interfaces. So for a better background and all that stuff, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation and share my screen. So let's see if I can do that. Yep. All right. Can everybody see that? Can you see that first slide?
Yeah, works absolutely well.
Fantastic. Good.
But I just see your computer screen and no slides.
Oh,
So maybe
the other one. I'm sorry.
you shared
There we go.
the wrong browser. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm.
Oh, it's fine.
Hold on. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I want to put it over here so that I'm actually looking at the right area. Okay. Apologies for that. You'd think after a year and a half of living on Zoom that I would have this figured out. But anyway, so there are usually two of us. BCI Guys is plural. The guy on the left is Colin. Unfortunately, he got really sick yesterday, so he couldn't be here today, but thankfully there are two of us, so I will do my best to fill in for him. So as I said, we are researchers, entrepreneurs, and educators motivated to create a brain-controlled future, which I'm sure is a similar mission to many of you. So Colin and I first met in 2018. We created at our university, Rochester Institute of Technology, so it's in upstate New York. We created the first student-run research organization at our university. And so basically we met through a professor that knew we were both interested in neurotechnology, because when I came in freshman year, I just would talk to everyone that would listen to me about neurotechnology, about this idea for research. And so we put together a proposal for some work that we wanted to do to help people with motor imagery or ALS or other movement disorders communicate and move. So a similar path, I think, to a lot of where these assistive technologies go. And so we presented that to the VP of Research here at RIT, who controls the research funding, and got a really generous grant from them, some lab space and equipment so that we could get started. So we started building a team to work on these projects. And you can see here, so this is after our first year, we were invited out to Dubai, all expenses paid, which is such a cool trip. I don't think we'll be able to top that, but I would love to come to Germany at some point. So, but yeah, so this was out in Dubai to present some research. And right now we are working on a couple papers, mostly from a motor imagery study that is ongoing right now. So hopefully those will come out a little bit. So that's going into its third year right now. So we also give talks like this one. So this, I think, was to a middle school, but Colin also taught a course at RIT. He's an adjunct professor in neurotechnology. And then this is from a TED Talk that I gave. So we talk about neurotech all the time. And then at the start of 2020, when we were all confined to our homes, we wanted to figure out how could we still provide value to people through the internet about neurotechnology. And so we came up with the BCI Guys as a way to put content out there that would be helpful to people, because we kind of identified a few different problems, which are that, when we were getting started, and I've been interested in this stuff for about 8 or 9 years now. We are first getting started. The technology is very, very overwhelming, I think, because of how multidisciplinary it is and the amount of things that kind of need to come together to develop even a basic understanding. And so there weren't really any great resources that were out there back then. Now it's really exciting to see NeuroTechX chapters popping up to facilitate a space for that. But we really wanted to try to fill that that content void and create content that would be useful to people. Also, just while I'm remembering it, my background in education, so I am in my last semester of undergrad right now, studying neurotechnology through an individualized major. So that's like a combination for me of neuroscience, technology courses, which is like a little bit of CS and EE, business and design. So as multidisciplinary as the field. So these are some just examples of the videos that we create. So sometimes we analyze movies. You can see up in the top left of the matrix, we cover events, like frequent events, and we also do papers and stuff. But we're working on a bunch of projects which are really exciting for us, trying to build some games that are brain controlled, a Tinder swiper where you can, based on your level of attraction, it will swipe right or left. So we've got some exciting videos coming out in the future. But for our first thing, again, back to that idea of providing value to people and trying to create resources for people to get started, we wanted to produce the free course Foundations of Neurotechnology to give everyone a foundational, non-technical understanding of the field of neurotechnology at large. And so we've been working with NeuroTechX for a while to on this idea, because they've had this idea of building a content platform, NeuroTech EDU, for a long time, or at least expanding on an older one that we had. And so we decided that we would build out the content, and they would build this excellent platform to put it on. And so we started actually developing out the course in August of last year, and then just kind of hit the ground running from there. And so just so everyone knows, the course is 100% free. There are 9 full lessons, which often have many little sub-lessons. And there are 2 tracks that you can take this. So if you just watch the videos, and I'll show a little bit of a better overview of this, but if you just watch the videos, it takes about 5 hours to go through all of the content. And you can get like a complete course in that. It just kind of goes into a little bit of the basics in each area. But you can learn a decent amount from that. And then if you want a little bit more, we have I think around 10 to 15 hours of additional written content that you can go through, discussion posts, and that's all on the NeuroTech EDU platform. The nice thing about that is it can be living content, so it will be always updated, and you could also use it as a resource if you want to go back and check a specific thing. So yeah, so we are planning on creating some more in the future as well. Here are just some moments from the course. So if you've ever seen the crash course videos, we really wanted it to be like that, as opposed to just lecturing over slides. So we rented out a studio and we did a bunch of animation and stuff, so to try to make it a little bit more engaging. So we were having fun with some skits. So this was talking about theories of brain function organization. So we have 2 competing sides, distributionists and localizationists, which is just ways of thinking about how the brain works. And then this was for the study of bioelectricity in our history lesson, where Colin pretended to be Luigi Galvani and is stabbing a poor fake frog there. So those were the best moments to make, honestly. And so, as I mentioned, NeuroTechX has created the NeuroTech EDU platform, and there's a bunch of written content as well. So here's a mock of what it looks like, but I can actually show you what this looks like as well. So this is lesson 1.2, where we go into types of neurotechnology, comparing invasive, semi-invasive, and non-invasive. And so we have the videos, of course, which are here, the written content, which, there are tons of pages of that. And then there are discussion posts at the end. There's a glossary. So really a bunch of resources for everyone. Then when you get to the end of the course, we have textbooks and additional videos for people to watch if they really just want to get super interested. So you can just kind of pick and choose what you want and go into whatever level of depth that you're looking for. And if you join, so how to go to it, if you go to neurotechEDU.com, if you go to neurotechEDU.com, this is what the website will look like. You can scroll down here to go to Foundations of Neurotechnology and then hit Enroll Now. And again, it's completely free. We just wanted to create a resource that was out there and available for everyone. So we'll go back here. And so this is a little bit more detail about what the course actually covers. So lesson 1 is an overview of neurotechnology and kind of the rest of the lessons to introduce the topics. So we talk about broad categories of types of devices, a little bit about how the devices work, some ethics, things like that. And then we go into the history lesson, and we really wanted this to be a story as opposed to just listing out facts, because sometimes that can be a little bit boring. So there are a lot of skits in there. That's actually one of my favorite lessons, just because of how much additional stuff there was there. And then we've got 5 lessons between the 2 neuroscience ones. So we talk about basic anatomy. We zoom in on the motor systems and sensory systems because those are really important for brain-computer interfacing and neurotechnology. So that's what happens in lesson 3. And then lesson 4 goes into neurophysiology, brain functioning, and how neurons actually connect with each other. So we talk about action potentials, parts of the neuron, and then theories of how they connect and actually arise into cognition. Lesson 5, we have 2 lessons in there that go into invasive and non-invasive neurotechnology. So we go into a bunch of peripheral and central nervous system implants and talk about how they're used, how they work in different applications. And then same thing with non-invasive technologies as well. So if you're kind of just getting started in this and you want to learn about what devices are out there, what new devices are coming out, then that's a good lesson to look at. Neuromodulation and brain enhancement. This is one of the topics that I'm most interested as well. So neuromodulation is when you influence the firing patterns of neurons in a brain, usually for medical purposes. So to help someone walk around if they have Parkinson's, help control some of those spastic muscle movements. It also is helpful in anxiety, depression treatment, things like that. And then we go into talk about the future a little bit and what brain enhancement could look like and what technologies are already out there for that. Lesson 7 goes into some methods of how to create brain-computer interfaces. So we talk about filtering, and we talk about different methodologies of creating these devices. And then we go into a bunch of different applications. And then lesson 8, we're almost through this. Lesson 8 is, that probably is my favorite overall. So we talk about neuroethics through the lens of popular culture and media. So we look at films like The Matrix or Black Mirror to see where some ethical violations came into play with neurotechnology, and then are talking about how those could be fixed. And then talk a little bit about neurophilosophy and what this could actually mean for our sense of what it means to be human if we have brain implants that are helping to augment our reality. We talk about cyborg theory and the theory of the mind. And then kind of going off ethics, the last one there is industry and government interests. So we talk about kind of where the funding is coming from, what big tech is doing, and kind of who the players are in the industry. So I've been talking for a while, so to give myself a little bit of a rest, I want to ask all of you my favorite question to ask people, which is, what is a cyborg? Because I think it's a blurry topic and everybody kind of has different answers for that. So what is a cyborg, and are we cyborgs already? So, so Sebastian, if you want to take a crack at that while people are maybe typing in the chat, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Sure, yeah.
I'll be asking you guys questions, huh? Turning it around.
The first thing that came in my mind was just like Arnold Schwarzenegger and his like Terminator.
Of course, yeah.
Like the most famous cyborg of all of them. But I think what's really interesting is always when I see news about like even just small enhancement, like better hearing systems or better like just additional support. It's, yeah. I mean, it's kind of cyborgish, right? So I think what would be interesting to me is like what percentage of tech must be in the human to I don't know, to be called cyborg. Yeah. So if it's just a hearing aid system, for example, is it already kind of a cyborg person, or is it not that much or not enough?
Mm-hmm. I want to make sure. Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I want to comment on that one sec. I see that this screen sharing thing is over on the left. You've seen the slides, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. It's just, for some reason it's on the other screen, so I was just making sure.
No. I would have said something.
Okay, thank God. Yeah. So so yeah. So you what?
Or because we already have some like the first.
Oh yeah. If there's anything in the chat, please read it out.
All right. So we have neurotech enhanced abilities. From Julia, we have from Roberto, going beyond the human-machine boundaries. We have from Denise or Dennis, I would say definitely a living being with either enhanced or restored abilities thanks to tech. And last but not least, Isabel with augmented humans or animals.
Very cool. So for everyone, does your definition of cyborg include devices that are implanted or part of, we'll just say humans for now, the human body? Or can it be something like, so there are kind of two schools of thought on this. So there's sort of the more Hollywood school of thought, which is like there is a visible difference. So like Arnold Schwarzenegger, so like how you were saying before. And then there's on the other extreme, the idea of, well, basically every time you use a tool and your brain incorporates that into its mental model, or possibly the best example is like a smartphone where you are augmenting some level of your cognition into the phone, right? You record memories, things like that, that's a cyborg. So I'm just curious, you know, in a couple words, do people think that it's generally closer to, it has to be an implant, has to be a part of you, or that it could be really any device or a smartphone or something like that? So are we already cyborgs with that? What do you think, Sebastian?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a evolutionary step maybe that we took when the digitization age came to us. So like the human being changed definitely when we got introduced to our smartphones, because we got new abilities and we got new opportunities that we didn't have before. But I'm not sure if I would, if that would be my definition of a cyborg, right? So I would say, I mean, there must be at least some, yeah, it's hard to say, maybe something on the body. It doesn't need to be invasive, I think. But let's look again at the chat. Also, if somebody from you in the audience prefers talking over writing, you can just also raise your hand and I can get you in, and you can talk about what's your opinion if you want to. Okay, so Julia's saying, I don't think it has to be physically integrated, rather functionally dependent, for example.
Interesting.
All right, and it seems they're a bit shy today, as in most online meetings.
That always happens. I like to try to push people a little bit to talk, but yeah, thank you to those who are sending messages.
Oh wait, we have someone who would like to talk. So Roberto, can you hear us? Or yeah, now we can hear you as well. What's your opinion? What do you think?
Yeah, I was just taking a reflection upon what we are discussing about, and we are saying that yeah, cyborg is problematic terms, but yeah, at the same time we are talking about merging man with machine is very spread imaging through neurotechnology field. And but at the same time there is this position that say, but we are already merged with machine, for example, if we consider smartphone or other technology. But again, at the same time, there is a very spread third position, I will say, that talk about a neurotechnological revolution. We are facing a revolution, no? A neurotechnology era. How is your position? There is some contradiction in it, because in a part we are in perfect continuity with the past, in another we are talking about a revolution. So I want just to know your position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are, I agree with you that this is sort of the neurotech era that we're going into. I mean, the pace of technological development in this field that we've seen in the last 20 years has been astounding, and now there's a tremendous amount of money pouring in the fields. And Whether you like him or don't like him, Elon Musk has also put with Neuralink a lot of eyeballs on the field as well, which is going to bring in investment, and it's also just helping put this technology in the public vernacular. So I really think that we're getting to the point where a lot of these questions will start to have to answer them, which is why I find the ethics and philosophy so exciting to think about what that will be as humans change. Was there a second part of that question as well that I missed?
No, I was talking about the neuro revolution, but at the same time, there is this issue that we are in continuity with the past. And also, if a true brain-computer interface, we will be able to interact with our technology in a different way. This will be a qualitative different way or just a quantitative different way. We are merging in a different way with technologies, or we are just merging as we are really are.
Just merging as, what was the last word? I'm sorry.
As we are really are. We are really are emerging with technology. For example, the example of the smartphone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, so to answer your like qualitative, quantitative part, I think that it definitely can be both, because I think especially if we're talking about like sensory implants and things like that, that it really can change how it can change your experience of consciousness, right? If we're able to add different senses or enhance them like that, that is an important piece of that for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Roberto,
Thanks to you.
For your question. We also got like the last answer from Isabel, who said, I think that exoskeleton, for example, could be part of the definition. So exoskeleton is maybe an example for, okay, it is not invasive, you don't need an operation, like I think in most parts, but you definitely have like a cyborg view of a person who's like an exoskeleton and having an advancements. So that's also an interesting part.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's just so fascinating to hear what people think about this, and also to the last part of what Roberto was saying about like who we really are and stuff. I think that like that's again a very interesting question about like our identities, and do we start to associate with the devices that we are using. And so one thing that we go into in this section of the course is often people who are in wheelchairs for a long time, it seems to take about 2 years, and then they start dreaming, and when they see themselves, they're in the wheelchair in the dream. And so there's a lot of evidence there that suggests that your brain is now incorporating this wheelchair into its mental model of the body. And same sort of thing happens with prosthetics. As they get better and better, there seems to be more of that integration into our mental models. And so that will be an interesting thing to grapple with, is what is our sense of self related to the technologies that we're using. And I think for me, the smartphone question, like I already have, you know, if I don't have my phone, I'm looking around, panicking a little bit, you know, like, did somebody text me? Am I missing something? And so for that reason, I'm closer on the school of thought around that when we are, you know, augmenting our cognition, that in that way we are engaging in cyborgian activities. So I do think that a smartphone kind of makes us cyborgs already. Very cool. Well, thank you everyone for those answers. And so I've got one more here, and we'll again start with you, Sebastian. But what is the coolest future use case of a brain-computer interface or neurotechnology? So feel free to dream a little bit here, and if anybody has short answers that they want to put in or they want to talk, and I'd love to hear from you as well.
I mean, it's basically the thing what not only me, but I think everybody is thinking about every day. I'm always so hard between making something like really useful for really the medtech sector, and you know, giving somebody back their abilities because they're disabled or whatever. But on the other side, I'm always this, okay, what if we really truly emerge in these simulation systems and, you know, all the movie stuff, and to be in a like fully immersive world. So that is also like the you know, part of me that think about that. But I mean, the cool thing is with the gaming and being in a simulation stuff is, I think, many decades away, but giving people back their abilities and stuff is already like very advanced, and you see so many great results. I think if you're in the bubble of BCIs, you basically see a great result or a new great research at least once or twice a week nowadays, which is like truly the maybe best time possible now to be in this like forefront of making use of this technology, or creating this kind of technology. So I think these are my two like coolest future use cases of BCIs. But yeah, I'm also interested like how the you know, brain writing will evolve into the next like decades, or at least the next decade. So
yeah, absolutely. There have been some really cool research papers that have been coming out. I'm sure you guys maybe have seen some of them, but just with trying to decode speech from the areas of the brain associated with muscle movements of speech, like in the throat and in the mouth. That was very cool. And then there was one that came out looking at imagined handwriting, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. All right. We also have some awesome suggestions from our participants. So Lisa is saying human augmentation and a direct connection to the internet and information storage systems.
Yeah.
That's really a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's one of the most exciting things, I think, too. Just the ability to increase our bandwidth of information in general and the information that we have access to. I think, you know, it remains to be seen on some of this stuff, but in terms of how we integrate that information into our consciousness and into our understanding is going to be interesting as well, because, you know, my guess is you wouldn't be able to just download skills or something like that, because there are physiological limits on how fast your neurons can fire and how you learn. You could probably enhance learning, but not do that sort of a thing. But you could definitely have like an external database that you can save to and just kind of, you know, look at that visually or interact with that through other senses. And so I think that would be interesting, but then also create some problems around withdrawal, maybe if you remove the device or something like that.
Yeah, but I think you can say that for whatever you want to say about future possibilities of BCIs, like there are always like upsides and downsides, whatever you want to create, right? So that's what you already mentioned before. That's why it's important to look at the ethical standards now, so that when it will come in the next 10-20 years, that we are at least somehow prepared, or somehow will know, because you know, I think it will reach us faster than we think. So
yeah, you got to try to prepare for everything.
You don't want to be surprised. Yeah. Yeah, Dennis is saying, as for me, it's brain-to-brain communication. So maybe in the next neurotech, or one of the next neurotech, like you don't even have to talk through your mouth. So we just participate with our minds. So what do you think about that brain-to-brain communication?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that excites me a lot too. So if people are interested in this stuff, Miguel Nicolelis has done a lot of research into this area. So they're through collaborative tasks, through 3 rats, like their brains were all wired up together, where one would see a color flash, and then another rat in another area would have 3 levers, and it would have to press the one associated with that color flash. And they had a really high level of accuracy. And then he did that with primates as well, where each one of them controlled an axis in 3-dimensional space. They had to like move a ball or a hand up to hit certain targets. but yeah, I mean, I always say, like, for me, all roads lead to neurotech. And so this is like, in my mind, brain to brain communication, aside from just having faster language, I think it's a better way to understand each other as well, because we communicate more holistically than we do just through words. We think in thoughts, and if I could send you an experience, then maybe you wouldn't, misinterpret certain things that I say, or you could get a better picture. So I'm like, that's my, how we get to world peace through neurotech. Everything's through neurotech.
Or to World War. Depends.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Colin and I are always saying, like, this could be the best technology or the worst, scariest technology. So it's two sides of the same coin.
All right. Peter is basically saying, controlling my personal Tesla bot with my mind.
Yes,
so that's a very specific application.
It is.
So
it is. Well, and the crazy thing is that might happen because Elon Musk can connect.
Yeah, if there's like one company, right.
If there's gonna, that's funny.
But don't use your Tesla bot not for the wrong use case.
Yeah, right. has to abide by the laws of robotics. We should make laws of neurotech too, like the laws of robotics. But anyway.
All right. Isabella is saying, control of hand prosthetic devices, fine control, and the perfect combination of motor and sensory decoding of brain activity. I think there's actually already some great stuff happening in this area. And there are actually also, if you see the Neurotech Introduction to Neurotechnology course, there are also very famous examples of how people use this kind of systems. And I think they're like already done, like, what's the name of the woman from, I think, 9 years ago?
Kathy Hutchinson.
Yeah, so that's one of the most famous cases. So that's definitely a very, very awesome opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And they have some, or quite a few now, where you can get some sensory information back from them. I saw one study that was looking at determining sharpness of devices and actually having low, very, very low stimulation pain put through the prosthetic, which is, again, interesting ethics there. But yeah, I agree. There's still a long ways to go with these prosthetics, but if you could have one like the Luke Skywalker arm, where it's, indiscernible from a real arm, that's really exciting, and that's one of the fastest developing areas. Very cool.
And it's also cool that maybe one in the future NeuroTechMUC events, we can invite somebody from OpenBCI, which is a company who's basically providing open source brain-computer interfaces for everybody, also for researchers. So if you're very tech affine and you kind of want to experiment on your own, there are definitely ways on when you use systems like that on your own, and whatever, controlling Arduino-based robot hand or stuff like that. So that's already possible if you want to do it at home, but of course, not that far ahead that you could do it in a very research setting. But if you want to experiment with something like that, that's also already kind of happening.
Using EMG electromyography, which is muscle sensing, there are a ton of devices that are out there. And that's usually when people come into the lab, one of the first projects that we give them to train them, because EMG is really, really easy to work with. And, if you just want to grasp a hand or point or something, it's pretty easy to discern between those.
Nice. All right, we have, I hope, Andres. I would like to see optogenetic synchronization with BCI. But that's also very interesting. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So optogenetics, for anybody that's listening and might not know, is a stimulation technique where basically you edit the genes of neurons to incorporate, I believe it's a sequence from algae, basically, that makes them light sensitive. So you can shine light on them and actually cause them to fire. And so it's a way to have really specific stimulation of neurons. So that could help us with some of these ideas of projecting images into the brain or streaming. Elon Musk had said streaming music to the brain. So stuff like that, optogenetics would be a good way to do that with a level of invasiveness, but it's fairly safe. So
awesome. Yeah, I think we have 2 left. We have one from Svarup. Also, I hope I say the name right. He has 2 favorite applications. The first thing is somehow integrating BCI with space tech systems in order to control these big machines to mine or study things the way we want to do. So that's interesting. I think what, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking about, going to space is like hard and you need time and effort and money. So if you, I don't know, somehow maybe get machines up there which you can, control from the Earth, that's actually a very interesting use case.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I'll try to keep my answers concise because I know we're running low on time. But theoretically, if you had a really, really good interface, that would be the most accurate way to control devices, right? And we were talking about the prosthetics where you can get sensory feedback from, but there's no reason that you couldn't get sensory feedback from a larger device. And so if you're able to do that, the level of control that you would have over these things is incredible. And so like I'm thinking of the Canada arm that's on the space station that has multiple joints and stuff. And the brain, the motor cortex in the brain has shown a tremendous amount of flexibility to adopt in other appendages or change around. So you could definitely do that sort of thing. And actually, when we were in Dubai, a government official came up to us and was asking if you could use this technology to control cranes. My answer was, I mean, you could. I'm not sure why you'd want to, and it would be very dangerous right now, but it was interesting.
Yeah. Also, maybe what I thought about this, maybe regarding space, right? On planets where you as a human can go to, right? Controlling robots there, or on even on Earth, on places where like no human being can be, but you kind of need the sensory systems of humans. So that also is interesting. And he also suggests, or he also thinks about what we already, I think, talked about, but storing your brain memory on your hard disk and probably accessing it whenever you want to do. So yeah, I think that's a. I also think already from the downsides from it that I think it's actually good that you forget some things in your life. So I'm not sure if I want to remember everything or access everything again. So but of course studying for exams will be a lot more easier.
Absolutely.
Great. So then we have the last case: quantifying your brain / flow states, setting the agenda according to the status, making a new definition of human productivity. Something we are working for.
Yes, very interesting. And there are a lot of non-invasive devices that are attempting to work on this right now. I think a lot of the times the claims are a little too rosy for some of the devices, but there are people working on those, and there is research to support that can work, help us get into flow state. So yeah, that might come very soon, that we can start to change that. So very, very cool. Yeah,
awesome.
so I'm pretty much wrapped up here, but I will just say for my idea generally is that I'm most excited about is just the ability to make technologies more human. And so what I mean by that is, I'm talking to you through a two-dimensional screen. I input everything through a keyboard and mouse. And this is an interface that I had to learn and spend a lot of time learning how to do. And every new application like Photoshop or things like that are very complex, it takes a while to learn. And so I think that creating interfaces that can work in 3 dimensions, that have sensory input, and that are more intuitive, that's kind of the biggest word, is the most exciting for me. So yeah, so thank you everyone for answering those questions. I'll let you get to your questions, and then I have an ask for the people in the audience, but that we'll close that for now. So cool.
Awesome. Yeah, again, thanks, Harrison, for your whole talk and for making the introduction. And sadly, I can't say that I have a special offer for everybody, that the course is free for everybody. So because it's already free, so there are no special offers for everybody who joins.
Doubly free for everyone here.
Yeah, so that's why you can definitely check it out. And now we do have time left for questions. So you can ask Harrison about like his personal life, in a sense that maybe I think there are many people who are maybe currently in university or also undergrads or graduates who are more in the research kind of way of neuroscience, neurotech, computational neuroscience, whatever you're studying or doing currently. And I think a question at least I get often, or when I talk with people, is that there are maybe problems in how to get into industry and how to get something from work there. So till the questions come in, maybe you want to talk quickly about that.
Yeah, so we actually are going to have a video coming out, I think, end of next week that tries to address this problem, because this is the question that we get the most. And if you have specific questions around this, you can email us at the BCI Guys at gmail.com. I do my best to go through there and help out people with their specific like career questions or stuff like that. But do remember that I am an undergrad student, so I'm doing my best, but haven't had some of those job experiences yet. But I would say, so the best general advice is really the same, regardless of whether you're in neurotech or not, which is just to develop out a really strong LinkedIn network. For us, we get all of our like news and everything just from LinkedIn feeds, because there are just so many people within neurotech that I'm connected to. And the field is really, really, because it's small, it's really tight knit, and people are going to be willing to help you. And also, if you have some sort of neurotech background, you have to remember there are a lot of companies popping up, and usually they're filling people with those roles that they might be hearing about neurotech for the first time. So you have a real advantage if you have demonstrated interest. So one could be joining a club like this one, or working on your own like hacker projects, putting together presentations, doing something that you can point to and say, this is a clear interest that I have in neurotechnology, and I do have some understanding, on top of whatever technical specifications you need to do, or whatever skills you need to have for that actual job. Then there are also job boards all over the place. So like Neuralink has their own job board. Usually if you find a company that you like, you can reach out to them, or they might have a hiring page. The last thing I'll say on that is, if you go to neurotech.com, this is one of my favorite resources. But they do business analysis. They come out with this big report and all of that. But they have this matrix where they have like 450 something companies in there. And so you can kind of go through, it's organized by sector, pick out some that you like, and then start learning about them to try to make yourself a more attractive applicant to those types of companies.
Awesome. Yeah. There's already also what I just think about, the NeuroTechX Slack channel, which is like really huge, and there's a lot of so Brian, if you want to maybe also make the connection to the Slack channel, because there are also many positions are always shared and connections are being made, so that's also a great opportunity. And also in the chat that NeuroTechX also has its own job board. Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, and this is a self plug, but on our LinkedIn, you can follow BCI Guys. We often repost job offerings from some of the larger companies. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, you can do that. And then the video will go into kind of choosing between industry and research as well. So that's more of a personal decision, but we'll kind of talk about how to go through that.
Yeah, and I think also what you already said, like the community is like really small, or at least at least after some time, every decision makers or everybody who's in the field. So it's actually, don't be afraid to just also write the founders of a BCI company or neurotech company on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, and ask them even if they have don't have something on their job board, just ask them if you kind of contribute or whatever, because I just know stories that they are actually most of the time very open to maybe intern positions or working student positions, even if they're not on their job board.
Seriously, and if you're in school too right now, you know, when you don't need a job is the best time to make connections with people. And so again, because the community is so tight knit, you could probably reach out to, you could either find neurotech recruiters, we actually talked to one to make the video, or even just like people higher up in some of these companies, the smaller ones, and just ask them, you know, I will be looking to come in the job market in a couple of years, what types of things are you looking for? And that will build that connection, as well as, you know, you'll probably get a foot in the door with that. So
yeah, awesome. So we have 2 questions for you. The first question is, again, from Dennis. Thank you very much for the talk. I'm currently deciding what to study at a graduate level, master. And he asks if you think that machine learning is essential for career in neurotech.
So yeah, so it kind of depends on what your backgrounds and interests are, because neurotech is super multidisciplinary. So you really can kind of, regardless of your background, find a place in the industry, right? So what we think of as traditionally associated with neurotech, which are kind of the largest needs, that's going to be primarily, so neural engineering is actually popping up, especially for graduate students as a field of study. So that if you're technical, I would say probably primarily that, but also biomedical engineering, neuroscience, obviously, and then software engineering, and then even electrical engineering. These are all important fields that are needed by pretty much every technology, especially if they're an invasive technology. So those are kind of your general areas. But even if, you know, if you're building a device and you're bringing it to market, you need an industrial designer for that. And, you know, like and if you're building an interface for this thing, you need a UI UX designer, and then you need business people, right? And so it's kind of goes back to that previous question, where if you're interested in neurotechnology, take whatever your skills are and figure out a way to integrate neurotech with that. And if you have a demonstrated interest, it's really going to help. But if you're more technical, I would say neural engineering. And then to the point of machine learning, you definitely need to have a conceptual understanding of it. You can always collaborate with someone, with a software engineer that does that. But machine learning is so essential to all of this data that you would need to have at least a conceptual understanding of what it is.
Yeah. Also, 2 points I would add is, I don't know where you come from, Dennis, but actually in Munich, we have at the TUM, Technical University Munich, we have a master in neuroengineering. So maybe, I don't know, that's why I said I don't know where you come from, but I think there are actually also some in the participants. Or you're in London, okay? Then you can come to Munich. But yeah, I think there are actually some people who are studying their master in neuroengineering who are currently in the participants. So if somebody just wants to quickly jump into the panel and maybe give an introduction on how it works for you, that also would be cool. So if somebody wants to share, you can also do that. I'm not sure if somebody there who's currently studying their neuroengineering. Oh yeah, Isabel. I will add you. Awesome. Hey.
Hi, I'm not sure. I don't think you can see me, but it's fine. Yeah, so I'm actually already done with my master's, but I did this master's in Munich in neuroengineering. And so yeah, indeed, there are quite a few different things that can be done. There is machine learning in some courses, but you also have electronics. There's also an ethics course for people who later on want to go rather in the discussion in companies that also hire in these branches. There are people doing neuromorphic computing later on, and there's also robotics. So yeah, and there are also people going on more clinical aspects of neuroscience. So yeah, there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can find a university that does that, that's probably the best route if you're a technical person. And we do in the video, I know I keep plugging this, but in the video that we're going to come out with, we have a list of universities in the US and then also internationally that have programs like that. So
awesome. Really, thank you so much. All right. Then we have I saw, yeah, Julia was asking before, what is your take on consumer EEG devices? Also, I think recently we saw Neuroscience Flow, whatever, who got funding, so a TCDS device. So what's your opinion on these like consumer devices? Because I don't know, they seem all very familiar, but maybe promise something else. So yeah, what's your take in this EEG device industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just at large, the innovation that's been going on there is really important in terms of accessibility, right? Because 20 years ago, if you wanted an EEG device, you can expect to pay, in the tens of thousands of dollars range to get something. And it's difficult, you need to be trained and all that stuff. And so I think that it's really wonderful when you see companies like OpenBCI and GTech, and even like Muse with like a really cheap headset that do provide reasonable quality data. It's great because it means that all of us can practice around with this technology. And there are even some FNIRS devices coming out that are consumer grade as well. So I think that it's phenomenal that it's out there. I would say, this is kind of the question with all neurotechnologies in terms of usability, which is, does the cost, and that could be, physical harm or monetary cost, outweigh the benefit, right? And so the populations where the benefit outweighs the cost is very small right now. And there's a reason why I'm not wearing an EEG device right now. And I would wager that everyone watching this doesn't walk around, go to the grocery store wearing a big headset on. And so, we really have to get to the point where it's for like consumer devices to be widespread outside of people that are just looking to do research or make their own projects. You need to have a lot better applications for that. And so we're just not anywhere close to that right now for EEG, with the exception of like, the one that's really broken out there is focus and meditation devices that can, like Muse, or I know that, there are some other companies making headphones and stuff that are like Neurable that are coming out. So there's that. And then TDCS, I've been skeptical of for a while, on the grounds of like comparing the claims of this stuff. And so TDCS is very easy to set up. You just need an anode and a cathode, 2 electrodes, you run current across it. And it kind of remains, so the current runs across the scalp, usually not through the brain, but it still is it does produce some neural response. And so there are some companies that I do think have decent papers on it that are showing that it does have some effect. It's just the level of that kind of remains to be seen. And then kind of the last thing I would say on that too is, for a general consumer device, back to that other question, you need to really be demonstrating that there's a significant increase in cognitive ability. So I do believe that a lot of these devices could maybe, just throw a number out there, increase your cognition by 5%, right? But do I notice that as a user? Probably not right now. But it's easy. You could make something in an afternoon that does TDCS. Just be careful, please. But it's simple to make.
Yeah, it's also, so the company I saw was, I'm not sure, do you remember, it's called like something with Flow, like Neuroscience Flow, whatever, who just got funding? Do you know that?
It's a French company, the one with the 2 here.
Yeah. So they're against like, if you're depressive and depressive or Flow Neuroscience. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. And I looked at what it was interesting because you can basically buy it or you can rent it. And if you want to rent it, you can basically rent it for 30 days for free. Like you can send it home for free. You can try it out for 30 days for free. So you can basically try it out for 30 days for free. But I mean, it's not, again, for fun. It's if you're really having depressive symptoms and shouldn't do it for fun stuff. So
and the science underneath that, in terms of stimulating the prefrontal cortex for affective disorders, for depression, for anxiety, is very solid. And so the questions that I have are just to the level that these consumer devices can do that. But if you have the ability to, if it's free, then go ahead and try it. It's pretty safe. But or at least the ones that I've seen are pretty safe. I'm just skeptical of like how much is the placebo effect, how much is it actually effective. So.
Sure. I mean, to sum it up, it's great that these things are like produced and bring to the consumer, because it also brings more awareness to the whole field. But there's still like so much opportunity for everybody who's currently watching to create their own devices, who create some other kind of problem solving or some other kind of product. So yeah. We have an interesting question from Swarup, who's asking, could there be any relation established within quantum computing and BCI? And should it be one of the primary goals right now or maybe later? I'm not sure how familiar you are with like quantum computing.
Yeah, with quantum computing, right. So that's kind of limiting the answer that I can provide there. I mean, I understand a little bit about like kind of how it works, but I just think about it in terms of it's just a better computer as far as I understand. And I'm certain that that's wrong in many ways. It's probably different and stuff, but I would just say if you look at the history of how neurotech has developed, it's always, other technologies, the radio, electrodes, and machine learning processing that really pushes it along in these big bursts. And so, if it has the capacity to crunch more numbers and process more data, then that's a huge limiting factor. So that would be amazing. And then if it could also help us simulate a brain or something like that, that could help us in research around that. And I would consider that neurotechnology. So probably, but I don't know nearly enough about quantum mechanics to.
Yeah. Also, maybe if you're thinking about the core idea of like just making maybe faster chips, whatever, maybe not looking into the combination of quantum computing and BCI, but really what we already said about neuromorphic computing, which is also a very interesting field. And it's basically also combining like neuroscience and computing. So maybe you also want to look at that. All right, so we have from Roberto, passive BCI wasn't even considered as BCI from every expert in the field before 2010. Now it seems to me that most of the BCIs that are taking step into everyday use of dimension are passive BCI to monitoring your brain activity. What do you think about these change in the last decade?
Yeah, I mean, so passive BCIs in terms of just monitoring, just recording, right?
I think so,
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it kind of depends. So again, it goes to what your goal is with the technology. I mean, with EEG and stuff right now, for all these devices that we're seeing, the purposes for them are to get data, to give it to someone to then manipulate, modify in some way for BCIs. And so I think in terms of stimulation, which is I think we're the other side of the question. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but for the stimulation side, it's really niche examples where that is helpful. So am I answering that, Sebastian? I'm not sure I understand fully.
Yeah, I think he just, because we already saw these, I think he talks about that there's not a great innovation actually happening in these passive BCI systems, right? Because we already saw similar systems like 10, 12 years ago, and now they're still coming out basically as the same thing, but just like a decade later, and now just with a maybe better website or better marketing, but like the technology at itself is not really new. But I mean, that's, I think, always, I mean, also if you that's also big, like a lot of people when like Neuralink launched their like new monkey playing Pong, like you saw all the comments who were saying, hey, you saw the same tech already like 2-3 decades ago, like why is this something great in innovation? Yeah, so I think you see these actually a lot in the like nowadays BCI world.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, now I understand where that's going. So yeah, and you also have active electrodes now too, which I'll talk a little bit about. But the problem I think is, so I mean, one, it was cost, but now we see that coming down, which is great. And so the other one is just physiological limitations. So the brain has remained the same for those last 10 years, right? And so you still have a bunch of biological layers. Or maybe it's fried from like smartphone usage and stuff, but that's a social media, that's a different question. But you have layers of the brain that scramble the signals. And so there are, limitations as far as we understand right now for what you can do with recording electrical signals from the top of the brain, because you're dealing with small signals with a lot of noise. Now, there are active electrodes, so electrodes that apply a current, and I believe are looking at a deflection in that current to pick up signals that do seem to have clearer signal quality, but you're still dealing with a lot of these same physiological problems. So there could be innovations in the future that help elevate EEG, but I think that we might have to look to other technologies like magnetoencephalography, MEG, which is what Colonel is doing, and then like FNIRS and things like that. So, but
that's also the thing, right? So it also just takes time if some new innovation in this kind of technology comes to the actual consumer world, right? So for example, let's take Colonel, for example. I mean, how much is their headsets going out for reaches? Like 50,000-60,000. Like it's
right.
it's nowhere close to buy it as a consumer. But also, that being said, like we saw this like always with technology in the last decades, that it was at the beginning of the research, maybe very, very expensive and maybe just for research. But after years of experimenting with it, costs come down and will be available to consumers. So it also just takes time for new stuff to come to the consumers from the research field.
Exactly. And then the real place where innovations will come in from EEG, at least for a while. So again, let's say that EEG is limited by physiological things. And so maybe for consumer devices, we get more and more electrodes, which would be great, and they're easier to set up. But I think the real innovation is going to come in the processing and how we think about this data. Because you're never going to have the same spatial resolution as how small of an area you can discern data from. With EEG, I mean, that'll probably come back to bite me in 30 years or whatever, but I'm going to say you're never going to have that same ability as with an invasive system. But maybe you can look at overall brain trends. If you have more capacity to just kind of look at things and think of different applications, then through the processing side, you might be able to get increasingly better outcomes. But
yeah, awesome. Great. So are there actually any questions left from you, girls and guys, from the participants? You're also very, very welcome to raise your hand and to ask him your question personally, if you prefer that. So if there's still something that you want to know, we can do that. If not, I mean, I will wait. Yeah, that's great.
All right. If we have time at the end too, I want to talk about another project that we're going to be working on, but I want to make sure we get through the questions.
And now the questions coming. So we have three more questions.
Oh, okay. No, I'm fine.
Yeah. So okay, following thing. Because we are already very good in time, we now have like 3 questions left. We take these 3 questions from Swarup, George, and Eduardo, and answer these. After this, Harrison, you can quickly talk about the project you're currently working on, and then afterwards, I will make some closing words, and we will finish the meeting and or the event, and I will have some also great news for you if you wait till the end for the next event. So definitely stay till the end if you can. All right, so the first very, I think, broad question, maybe you can just quickly sum it up. Swar was asking how you did start in first place in the field of BCI. So like where maybe comes your interest in the area, and what was your really first step into the sector? How did you actually came to the, you started to talk already that you were interested in, you started your first project at the university, but where did you come from there?
Yeah, so it started a while ago for me. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a robotics engineer. I was really interested in that field, and I was like really strongly focused and good at science and math. But then I got a bad traumatic brain injury that actually took away my ability to read and write for a while. And speech was very difficult, head pain, stuff like that. And my math ability had like pretty much reset at that point. And so I was really sad about that, thinking like, okay, well, I don't think I can do the robotics engineering and stuff, but I was thinking about one of the devices I wanted to create, which was an exoskeleton for people with ALS. And I had not seen anything about, neuroengineering or brain-computer interfaces before, but I was trying to imagine, it's like, okay, how could you control this? Because they can't, if you can't move your body, how do you control a system? And so I think because of what was going on with my head, and I was thinking a lot about brains and neuroscience, I was like, okay, well, what if you could control it with your brain? Because the brain is sending out signals to the muscles, could you intercept those? And then I, did a little bit of research, and I actually saw, the first thing I saw was the video with Kathy Hutchinson moving the arm. And my mind just exploded with possibilities of what could be done around that. And I'm so glad that all of that happened so that I could get the interest in this field. But I sort of had this idea, I was like, okay, I might not be an engineer, but I can be a business leader and a communicator in the field of neurotechnology. And so again, my mind exploded with this idea of creating more human interfaces. I just did a bunch of my own research through high school. And then once I hit college, I wanted to do some higher level research. So that's where I got started.
Awesome. We have a question from George, who's asking about any open source algorithm that you can recommend, open source and free. And the first thing that came into my mind was BrainFlow. So I will send this into the chat. So everybody who's not familiar with it, it's basically an open source, e.g. pre-processing, and yeah, I don't know what it can actually work with many BCI boards, so OpenBCR, but also other boards with other BCI devices, and it's basically free and open source. And there's also a great community behind it who is always trying to maintain the code. And yeah, there's also a Slack channel where I'm in, where you can talk to the developers if there's some questions. So definitely check out that if you're interested in e.g. pre-processing and yeah, all analyzing the EEG data stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and then no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, if you have anything to add to BrainFlow or any other free algorithms. I think it's the most popular one that most of them use in the field.
Yeah, BrainFlow is the most popular and probably the best place to start. If you like and are used to MATLAB and you're more in the research side of things, then there's MATLAB LSL, Lab Streaming Layer, which is a good place to start with that. And that's used a lot in like research applications. I know that there's also, I don't think it's open source. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not, but there's Neuro as well, which has a gorgeous interface to interface with a bunch of different tech. So that's helpful. I also want to say too, I know NeuroTechX has a phenomenal list of resources. I think if you go to their main website and then hit learn, there's like a GitHub page and it's huge. It's huge. And so there are data sets. I'm sure there are links to open source stuff too. So take a look there.
Yeah, awesome, great. Also, to everybody, it would be also great if some of you just wants to work on these projects as well, because open source people always need support in these kind of systems.
Yeah,
all right.
Slack.
Yeah. We have the last question. The question is perfectly aligned with what your next steps are. And it's from Eduardo, like, what's the future of BCI Guys? And you can definitely also add on the project you want to mention.
Thank you. Yeah, no, great transition. Thank you, Eduardo. So yeah, future for BCI Guys. Like I said, we're going to try to get into more regular content. So as I mentioned before, the project videos are going to become a big part of this. So we're going to make a project video that's hopefully like a little bit flashy. So I mentioned that Tinder idea. The goal of that is to make people more aware, build awareness of neurotech, and reach a little bit more of a general audience. But then we'll always do a secondary video where we are explaining more about how we built that and making code or anything available if people want to replicate that. So we'll definitely have like that as a core content thing, and we're looking at other ideas for that as well. We've recorded some podcast episodes, so we'll be working through that piece. Right now, we are working on a couple other projects. So one of them is a community source one that I'll talk about in a minute. But then we're also working on a larger show. So we're looking for funding right now because we have access to this great 3D environment. And so we're trying to hopefully in the next couple of years build out a show where we can walk through the brain and actually like point to, oh, here comes a DBS electrode. Let's talk about how that works. And so we're looking to make something around that as well. So that's kind of the near future, and then we will make more courses and stuff in the future. So
is there a way if somebody now from the participants said, hey, like BCI Guys sounds very cool, I'm looking ways to contribute, like what's the best way if they say, hey, they just want to support what you're doing, they want to contribute, like what's the best way to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are always happy to have volunteers to help us look around, validate information, find information, or even help out with projects. And so if you go to bciguys.com/support, there's also like Patreon and stuff on there, but there's a spot where you can put in ideas for future episodes, and then you can contact us. I believe there's a contact us on that, but if not, in the footer, you can reach out at our email, thebciguys@gmail.com, or find us on Instagram or Twitter at BCI Guys, and just say, hey, I'd be interested in helping out doing research for some videos or whatever it is. That's always appreciated. So.
Awesome. Yeah, great. So we don't have any questions left. We are very good with our timing. So I think it's the best possible way to end this. Thank you very, very much, Harrison, for your time.
Wait, sorry, can I talk about that project? I'll be quick.
Oh, sure, sir. Sorry.
Thank you. No, you're fine.
Spoiler.
So I'm gonna go here really quickly. So we are working on a project right now that we're calling We Are Neurotech. And so the idea here is to have to represent the diversity of thought in the fields of neurotechnology. And so this is just sort of a mock of a website that we'll want to create. At the top, there'll be a very simple question like the ones that I was asking and that some people asked around, like, how did you get started in neurotech? What is the most exciting future application? Things like that. And then my hope is to have a diverse representation of students, enthusiasts, researchers, entrepreneurs that all provide a 30 to 90 second answer to that. And we'll make it look like a Zoom call or something, and then you can click on each one and see people's different responses. And so if you're able to help out with that, we have bciguys.com/weareneurotech. You can also get there.
Are you currently showing the right thing with the ethics and role of business?
No, it's over here. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah,
right.
If you go, no, thank you, I appreciate it. So if you go to bciguys.com/weareneurotech, or go to the homepage, go to projects, you can find this here. And so as I said, we want to show a diverse representation of the field. So each one of these tiles would be a 30 to 90 second video clip from someone that shares the information and an answer to one of the questions. So the questions are like, what do you do within neurotech? How did you get into neurotech? What do you wish you knew when starting? what is the most exciting future application, most exciting current application, what does the space need right now, what would it take for you to use a device every day or get a brain implant, sci-fi, what's your favorite sci-fi movie, what scares you the most, ethical boundaries, and then the cyborg question. So if you would like to send in your videos to that to make this kind of community project, then there's a spot for submissions down here where you just put in your name, any other information you'd like to share, and then you would basically just paste a link to the videos if you make them. So if you'd like to help out and share your ideas, we would absolutely love that, and hopefully this will come out within the next couple of months. Hopefully that was okay. I know that was a surprise. I didn't talk about that at the time, but I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to share the link. So where is it on the website? Oh yeah, thanks, Brian. So the link is already in the.
I see that people are saying that they don't have permission, so I will work on that right now. But just hold on to the link. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you need to work on the permission stuff, but I think Harrison will, after the event, make it in just a minute so you can access it. Great. Are there any other projects you want to present? All right.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No. You mentioned it. Sorry. Yeah. Awesome. So now I couldn't think of a better idea to end. No, really. Thank you, Harrison, for the time and for all the great stuff. I think there are now definitely some people who will look at the course afterwards, who maybe will be in contact with you. And of course, the whole event wouldn't be possible with the people who are now participating here. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for all the great questions and really cool insights about what future examples there are for you in the BCI future. So it was definitely visible that all of you are very interested in the field, and there were also very advanced questions. So really thank you to everybody. The last thing I can say is, because I already mentioned that there's maybe something great for the next NeuroTechMUC event. So I have to think about in what, let's say, time or date difference I want to, if I want it every month, or I think every 2 months is a great way to do it. But we already have our next guest for the next event, who will be the CEO of the Munich-based brain-computer interface company Surrogate. And the really cool thing about that is that there are currently no really public informations about this BCI company, like on the web, but on the NeuroTechMUC event, let's say in 2 months, he will present all the insights he has, or he can share you on the company and on the technology that they are building, which will basically not be available to people outside of the event. So that's a great way to get, like, really, they're currently a team of 5 people and currently got very, very big funding. So it's a great way to also, if you're from Munich, to get in contact with them or with the CEO. So that's a little bit a surprise for the next event. You will definitely get information on when will this happen and when where you can sign up. So yeah, again, thanks to everybody. Also thanks to you, Brian, for always answering the questions in the chat and making this event happening, and always be so supportive. All right. Then I think there's really nothing left from my side. Harrison, do you have any last words to the participants?
No, just thank you so much for having me on and listening to me today. And it's always really exciting to see interest and get questions, people thinking about neurotech. I love this stuff. So yeah, thank you. It's an honor.
Awesome. So I think that's it. If there's anything also, I don't know, if you thought that this event is interesting, we recorded this event. and we will upload it afterwards on the NeuroTechX YouTube channel. So if you want to re-watch some part of it because you didn't understand maybe something, or you want to share it with your friends or colleagues, then you can just do it. Maybe it will be online in the next 2 or 3 days, but it also being said. All right, so that's really the last words. So thank you, everybody, and have a great evening or day or whatever your time zone is. All right, so see you.
Thanks.